For decades, the music industry has been synonymous with culture, innovation, and rebellion. She sold freedom, attitude, and change to entire generations. But curiously, when the future of music appeared before her, her reaction wasn't curiosity. It was legal action. A teenager created a technology that delivered exactly what people wanted: easy, fast, and direct access to music. And the very industry that benefited from the fans' passion decided to fight this idea with all its might. Napster didn't emerge as an outright threat, but it was treated as an unforgivable mistake. Instead of asking, "How do we use this?" the question was, "How do we dispose of it?" This detail changes everything, because this story isn't just about music, nor is it just about piracy. It's about how entire sectors react when they lose control. And, ironically, the same principles that were attacked back then became the foundation for billion-dollar platforms a few years later. Throughout this video, it becomes clear why Napster had to collapse for streaming to be born, why winning in court didn't mean winning in the marketplace, and how decisions that seemed responsible ended up delaying the industry's own evolution. If you've ever wondered why some brilliant ideas die young while others thrive by following the same path, this story has the answer. And perhaps it will make you see innovation, control, and timing in a very different way. In 1999, something curious happened in the heart of American technology. While major record labels were comfortable selling expensive CDs in physical stores, a teenager changed the game without asking permission. Sean Fanning didn't build a studio, nor did he sign artists. He connected people. Napster allowed any user to exchange music directly, from computer to computer. University dormitories in the United States have become central points of this cultural exchange. Many young people have come to see music as something social, not as a closed product. Even American students living abroad have started spreading local tastes to other places. The technology was simple, but it solved a real problem that nobody wanted to face. And understanding this kind of turnaround is exactly the reason to keep following the channel and subscribe. The detail that almost no one noticed at the time was the emotional context behind Napster. The home internet was fast enough for audio files. The MP3 format fit on standard hard drives, something that was rare just a few years earlier. People already exchanged tapes and CDs among friends, but this always had physical limitations. Napster simply removed those limits. Users began to assemble personal libraries with complete freedom. This behavior created a sense of control over one's own musical experience. For those who create products today, the lesson is clear. Habits come before business models. A good exercise is to observe how people share things without involving money. Napster wasn't born as a provocation to the industry. It was born as a practical solution. He was speaking directly to those who were tired of paying for albums with few good songs. The platform grew without campaigns, without ads, without traditional media. Millions invested simply because it made sense. This showed that distribution is often more valuable than strict control. Modern companies learn this by studying communities, not just reports. Astute creators test ideas in small circles before scaling up. Those who ignore this process often miss the cultural timing. And that's exactly where much greater forces began to move, preparing the ground for the next topic. When Napster began to grow, the reaction from the music industry was immediate. Traditional record labels saw this as a direct threat to the model that had sustained decades of profit. Executives accustomed to controlling distribution have lost control of the narrative. Famous artists have entered the debate publicly, some with harsh and emotional speeches. Metallica became a symbol of this confrontation by suing the platform. Dr. Dre followed the same path, reinforcing the idea that something needed to be contained. For many fans in the United States, it sounded like a culture shock. Musicians who inspired freedom seemed to be defending barriers. The relationship between creator and audience began to get tense. The central issue wasn't just money, it was authority. Who decides how music circulates, the industry or the public? Record labels believed they were protecting artists, but they acted more like guardians of an old system. Meanwhile, young consumers advocated for accessibility and convenience. Many Americans living abroad also participated in this online discussion. They felt that the internet was bringing closer cultures that the market had separated. This conflict exposed a larger problem. Resistance to change often comes disguised as protection. Those who work in digital business can observe this pattern across various sectors. And here's the question. Do you think the artists were defending art or just the system? From a strategic point of view, the attack on Napster was an attempt to buy time to preserve contracts, structures, and control. But legal proceedings rarely change already established social behaviors. The public didn't stop wanting digital music just because someone sued a company. This type of reaction teaches an important practical lesson. When something solves people's problems, prohibiting it doesn't eliminate the need. Smart companies study the root cause of behavior before addressing it. Those who ignore this often win in court and lose in the marketplace. And it was this legal battle that opened the door for even bigger decisions. The confrontation between Napster and the industry has gone from symbolic to legal. United States courts have begun dealing with something that didn't exist just a few years earlier. It wasn't just about music, but about how the internet would work from then on. Judges had to decide whether net-neutral technology could be held liable for people's use of it. This type of decision shapes entire sectors, not just isolated companies. For many young lawyers at the time, this case became an academic benchmark. Even today, digital law courses cite Napster as a turning point. The justice system entered new territory without clear maps. And when that happens, the consequences tend to spread. The decisions against Napster created precedents that are difficult to overturn. Platforms have come to be seen as responsible for user behavior. This completely changed the way startups thought about their products. From day one, every digital company has included lawyers. In the United States, especially in Silicon Valley, this mentality has become the norm. The founders began designing solutions with legal limitations in mind. For those creating projects today, the lesson is practical. Innovation without legal protection is fragile. It's worth studying cases like Napster, Grokster, and later YouTube. They show how rules shape what survives. The domino effect was quick and silent. Other platforms shut down before they even grew. Investors have become more cautious about overly disruptive ideas. Legal fears have become intertwined with financial fears. This didn't kill innovation, but it made it more strategic. Those who learn from this understand that timing matters just as much as the idea. Modern designers can apply this by validating designs in controlled environments. Testing, adjusting, and protecting has become a basic rule. If this type of analysis makes sense to you, feel free to leave a like and show your support for the content. Even with millions of users, Napster began to show clear signs of fragility. Growing quickly didn't necessarily mean having a sustainable path. The platform has become synonymous with digital music, but not with revenue. Attempts to reach agreements with record labels were hampered by demands that were incompatible with the audience's wishes. Charging would drive users away. Keeping everything open would irritate the industry. This type of dilemma is common in businesses that grow before they mature. Startups in Silicon Valley still face similar decisions. Scale without a clear model often takes its toll. And Napster was exactly at that point of tension. Legal pressure drained resources and strategic focus. While the lawyers worked, competitors observed and learned. The company was trying to reinvent itself in the middle of a legal minefield. Subscription plans arrived too late to convince users accustomed to free services. Investors became hesitant to put in more capital. For those who build digital projects, the practical lesson is straightforward. Monetization needs to be born alongside user habits. Waiting for stability to think about this is usually too late. This error is repeated across apps, platforms, and even digital channels. In 2002, the end came almost inevitably. Napster declared bankruptcy and ceased operations, but the behavior he created remained intact. Users did not return to the physical past. They simply migrated to new solutions. This raises an important question for those following this story. If you were in Napster's shoes, would you have changed the model sooner or fought the industry to the end? This decision separates survivors from historical cases, and the most curious thing is what happened next, when the market absorbed all of that. Napster disappeared as a company, but its idea was never buried. The notion of immediate access to music has become a cultural norm. A few years later, the market began to offer exactly what it had previously fought against. Streaming replaced downloading, but the behavior remained the same. Listen to whatever you want, whenever you want, without physical barriers. The difference was in the legal packaging. The industry hasn't changed people's desires. It's changed the way it charges for them. This detail explains why Napster's vision was ahead of its time, and also because it was so uncomfortable for those in charge. Modern platforms like Spotify and Apple Music have solved the puzzle. They delivered convenience without directly confronting the legal system. Record labels have gone from being enemies to strategic partners. Access has become a subscription, not ownership. In the United States, this model spread rapidly across all age groups. Even Americans living abroad use these platforms to maintain cultural connections. The curious thing is that the core technology already existed years before. Napster showed the way, others adjusted the discourse. This is a recurring lesson in the history of innovation. The biggest lesson from this story isn't in the bankruptcy, it's a pattern that repeats itself across various sectors. Those who reveal the future too early often pay the price. Those who come later learn from the mistakes of others. This applies to technology, business, and even personal decisions. Observing resistance helps predict future acceptance. Astute breeders study rejections as much as they study successes. Understanding why something failed teaches more than copying what worked. And Napster remains one of those cases that explains the present. The story of Napster leaves a lesson that goes far beyond music. She shows that strong ideas don't fail because they lack merit, but because they clash with structures unprepared to change. People's behavior almost always points to the future before companies do. Those who learn to observe habits instead of fighting against them tend to go further. This logic applies to business, career, content creation, and personal decisions. Ignoring clear signals from the public is costly, even for giants. Applying this learning means questioning established models and consciously testing new approaches. Knowledge only generates results when it translates into practical action. And that's the difference between watching stories and learning from them. After hearing all this, one simple provocation remains. How many ideas have you already discarded because they seemed too early to come? How many opportunities have you missed out on for fear of deviating from the accepted norm? If Napster had been understood, perhaps history would be different. But his mistake became a manual for those who came after him. And those who understand these patterns begin to see movements before they become consensus. This type of perspective doesn't make headlines, but it changes trajectories. Thinking this way requires discomfort, but it brings advantages. And that's exactly what separates those who keep up with change from those who create space within it. If this content has helped you see innovation in a new way, don't stop here. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to continue learning from real stories that shaped the digital world. Here, each video connects the past, human behavior, and decisions that still affect the present. And the more you understand these patterns, the less you depend on luck. This is the kind of knowledge worth carrying with you.